So I'm now in Kanawha, Oklahoma, and we are at the Kanawha and Violet cemeteries. It's kind of a series of maybe 3 cemeteries here because I also see a Bates cemetery. But this one has a person with an interesting story and a lot of folklore. Sadly, the person that I want to show you has a headstone that is now missing. I don't know if it's something where it was knocked over and broken, or maybe it was stolen. Either way, this headstone is now missing. Here you can see 2 memorials, the one on the left which is upright and the one on the right which looks like a flat marker. It's not actually a flat marker, it's just the base to which a headstone used to stand there. Now this is the grave of Katherine Cross. She was born in 1899 and passed away October 10th, 1917, about 6 months after her 18th birthday. Now her funeral in this cemetery was not well attended by the townsfolk. In fact, her parents worried that she would soon be forgotten about. So when they had the marker created, the headstone, they decided to put an epitaph on it that said, "Murdered by human wolves." And it was down along the bottom, and so throughout the years, there's been all kinds of folklore, legends, campfire tales, whatever you want to call it, that have risen about what happened to her. So one of the more popular ones was that her body was ravagely killed and eaten by werewolves. And that's the most popular one. There's also ones where a gang of KKK members have killed her or something. But the truth of it is far from that. There was actually a 1917 article in the Seminole County News that revealed a Dr. A.H. Yates, and he was arrested for performing a criminal operation on another girl in town that was 18 years old. Now this was with, the article also mentions a Fred O'Neill, which was his assistant and a local school teacher. But they, this was just 2 months prior to Katherine Cross's death. Now they performed this criminal operation, and the girl that passed was buried, but the suspicions rose, and so they exhumed that 18-year-old girl's body and did an autopsy, and then that's when they found that there was a criminal operation that was performed. And so the newspaper doesn't go into detail or anything, but the thought is that it was an abortion. And so the same thing happened to Katherine Cross right here, is that her death was most likely due to criminal operations as well, which was an abortion. And since you can't really state something like that on the headstone, or at least at the time, her parents decided to go ahead and put "murdered by human wolves." So this is a well-visited grave, and I'm not sure if that headstone is missing because it's been stolen, or maybe it was just knocked over and damaged when they did mowing in here. As you can see, there's one knocked over there. And like I said, I don't know if it's vandals or what. But you can see some mementos on here. It's good to see that there's flowers on here. It's well visited. And you can see some beads and some rocks, a pine cone. There's even one rock there painted, looks kind of Christmassy, I guess. And then there's kind of some sort of clay pottery type deal with some ribbons on it. Those are all mementos here that have been left for Katherine. And this one right here, I think, is probably the grandmother, just judging by the dates. The last name is Sarah, or the first name is Sarah, the last name is Cross, and she died in 1915, which would have been 2 years prior to Katherine dying. So just judging by her birth date, which was in 1836, it has to be the grandmother there. So I wanted to show you Katherine's headstone, And sadly it is not here. I'm not sure if it's something that's going to be replaced. I would like to see it replaced, as it was originally made by her parents. Very unique. You're not going to see very many headstones that actually say murdered by human wolves. Anyways, we'll take a look around here in the cemetery and see if we can see anything else that catches our eye. If you look at this one right here, you can see where the headstone has slid right off of the base there. It's just kind of sunken in and it slid. I don't know how it's standing, but it's still standing. This is kind of right across the gravel road from where Katherine Cross is. There are quite a few graves in here, and this cemetery is oddly shaped. Katherine's grave is right over there. But there are a lot of headstones, as you see right over there, where they're leaning or have fallen. Here's another one that's leaning that it makes you wonder how it's standing up. I mean, it's almost defying gravity right here. But this cemetery, it is mowed, and you can see there's a rock wall around it, which is pretty cool. And there's all kinds of places in the ground where it has settled and sunken in. So if you come out here, you definitely need to watch your step, because you could twist and break an ankle, sprain an ankle. But it is definitely uneven ground in here. Here are a couple more markers that have fallen due to the ground shifting and sinking in, and they've just kind of tumbled over. Luckily, those are not damaged in any way. Still makes you wonder on Katherine, if hers just simply fell over, why it's not laying here like the others that you see in the cemetery. So it does kind of lead me to believe, or make me worry anyways, that someone has stolen it, which is very sad. These markers right here have fallen, and the base is still there, and it's just kind of being covered up by the grass. Obviously there was a tree planted there in between the two, probably in remembrance, but it has gotten out of control and has been cut down, and something else, this thing is just growing all over the place in between the two. But it has made it to where these headstones are about to be covered up. You can't even hardly put those back where they're supposed to be, and on top of that, the ground is sunk in right there. Here's another one right here. It's pretty interesting. It just basically looks like some logs down at the bottom, and then here is a tree stump or cut piece of wood. Now it is really leaning like it's about to fall as well. It just has such a thick base. I think that's holding it up. But I mean, kind of have to be careful in places like this, because if that falls on you, you're just going to be trapped out here, and there's really just no one to come rescue you. But this person died in 1911, and you can see they're part of a organization that's called Woodmen of the World, and you can see some axes there. You'll see it with those guys, that fraternity, Woodmen of the World. A lot of times when you see pieces of wood, stumps, things like that, they're on children or someone young, and it kind of signifies that the life was cut short. Anyways, another interesting one on how that thing is leaning like that. Another one, it looks like it's been a while since someone has visited. There are flowers there. And you can see this one right there, where it has also slid off of the base. There's really no telling how many are in here that are just covered up, but here I caught my eye. This is a government marker and a veteran. Just thought we would uncover it here. Let him be recognized. Gary Charles, World War II veteran, passed away in 1974. Even this memorial right here, which is extremely nice looking, got a bench right here to sit and remember your loved ones. But it looks like maybe there was a vase or something that was there that was maybe stolen, or I'm not sure. But it's right here next to these other memorials that have fallen. This marker kind of catches your eye. It has a tennis racket down here. And then I could see this little thing here. It made me think maybe the picture had fallen out, but you actually lift that up and you can see a picture of him right there. I really like that idea. It's gonna keep the sun from fading it, and it's gonna be around for a lot of other people to see who he was. It's always sad when you walk through cemeteries and you see young children or babies that have passed away. And this one is no exception. There's a headstone there. They've kind of built that trellis over the top. There's actually a picture of that baby on the headstone there. It's always sad. There's all these mementos around here. A little flower pot, looks like, and a pitcher, some flowers and praying hands. And you walk around to the back side and there's a tricycle there. Oh, how sad. Another marker that should be upright but has fallen over. 1928 on that one. Some of these are pretty old in here. As I'm walking through this cemetery, there are lots of indentions where the ground has sunk in, and the ground is really soft in areas, so it's sad to see these headstones that have toppled over like that, but I'm not sure that there's anything that they can really do, because it does cost some money to haul dirt in here. It takes time, and this is a big cemetery. It's just unfortunate that things like that happen. But I've sunk so many times in the ground, just in between the graves or even out towards the road. It's super soft ground. This cemetery right here just stretches way far back there, and it's kind of split by a road that comes in between. But right across here is a paved road and another cemetery here. I said this is 2 cemeteries, but really 3, because that over there's another rock wall there, and it says Bates Cemetery, so it's really kind of 3 cemeteries here. Came up on these 2 graves right here, and it's kind of sad. I saw that tattered flag there, and I wish I had some little flags in my car. I've put them out on other graves and other cemeteries, but it's really tattered, and there's one on the ground there, but they're nice markers, and I think they've probably been placed here in more recent years. You can notice this picture right here, and it's a great looking photo there. Sergeant Leland Gladden, 1925 to 1945, and I'm taking it by the picture there that he was in probably the Army Air Corps. Makes you wonder if he passed away in World War II, looking at the date 1945. But very nice memorial right there. Right next to it is obviously another family member. Don't know if it's a brother or what. But this is the one with the flags that kind of just reached out to me. There's another great photo. There's all these limbs here from this tree that it's grown up in between them and been cut back, and it's growing again. But 1922 to 1944, so it definitely makes me think that it's someone that passed away in World War II. But I think he was a fighter pilot, looking at this plane right there, and he was an ensign, so U.S. Navy right there. Anyways, I thought they deserved a little recognition there. It's another veteran, just barely noticeable right there. Everything's just sort of washed down this hill right here and on top of his marker. see if we can maybe uncover some of it. Looks like he was a World War II veteran. I'm gonna have to get something more because that dirt is really stuck on there. So I looked through the car and I couldn't find anything that would work, but I've got this old hunting hat that I had in the trunk, and it's not gonna hurt this marker because it's metal. Well, thought we'd just kind of use it to clean off some of this. See if we can let him be recognized. A little bit more scraping there, and looks like he passed away in 1975, and last name is Phillips. Sorry if the camera's kind of bad, I'm just using the bill of this hat. We've got him a little more exposed anyways. Those rocks were in the ground there, so we'll mark it with that. And I think I've got a penny in my pocket here that we can place there in memorandum, just to show him that he's not forgotten. Anyways, definitely appreciate his service. No telling how long he's been covered up. Still a little bit out of breath after trying to uncover that veteran, but this one had caught my eye. There's all these cracks right here, and then there's a crack down towards the center of that headstone, and it had caught my eye, and I made my way over to this, and then that's when I noticed just a little bit of that veteran sticking out there. But anyways, this is a cemetery that could use some volunteers to help kind of get it straightened and maybe uncover some graves in it. Right over there is the cemetery that we were in, and now I'm across that paved road, and this is clearly the older cemetery. Right there, the date of death is 1904. There's a 1914. These are just older looking in here. So we'll take a look around here and see what we can maybe find. This one right here is dated 1906. Last name is Dotson. There's actually an epitaph right there, but it's so worn down you can't even read it. But anyways, lots of old ones here. This one right there is 1849 to 1905. Starting to become unreadable there. Not sure why this is here, if it was placed here on somebody's grave as a memorial or what, but it's a broken mirror just right in the roadway that comes in through here. This is the sign that's along the highway as you're headed east into Kanawha. So this cemetery is Violet Springs. This is the second cemetery that we were in. Across the road must be Kanawha Cemetery. They're all right here together, and they all have this rock wall on here. But over there is another cemetery called Bates. Pretty noisy along this highway. Hopefully you can hear me as the cars are passing by on the highway, that Highway 39. I'm not sure if that is a makeshift grave. There's just a beer bottle on top of that tin, and then there's some cinder blocks on it, and the cinder blocks are painted. Or if that was some sort of sign. Right here on the outside of the cemetery, there's this little elevated square section, and I don't know if maybe there are graves in there, or maybe that just at one time had a nice sign designating the name of this cemetery, or maybe even designating the entrance into Kanawha. If anyone knows, just leave a comment below. I always love these graves that have iron fences around the burials inside of it. Just a little family plot area. A little bit extra on it. I always think they look so neat. Here's another one that's fenced in right here. And love these little gate posts right there. Certainly unique. It's that old wrought iron fence around it. Now this right here is a separate cemetery, and I'll show you that. So this is the Bates Cemetery here, and it's just a little section right here. And you can see people with the last name Bates in there. This is the Bates Cemetery, and that's the cemetery we were just in, and then there's another one that we were in before over there. So there's 3 cemeteries. The question becomes, is that a 4th cemetery over there? Because there's actually little rows there with road signs and a couple graves out there that are marked, but there's really no telling if there's other graves out there that aren't marked. It's just kind of like at a little intersection here that's almost like a triangle. It's a 4-way, but it's kind of at an angle. But that has that old wrought iron gate on there. Lots of Bate family members in there, and then also ones that are stating Morrison and Rudell. Pretty interesting. All 3 cemeteries have markers that have been toppled over like that one. It's an old cemetery. Very interesting to take a peek around at. This is one of the roadway signs I was talking about, and it's supposed to be up on that pole. And you can see other poles in here, right over there towards that stop sign. There are 2 markers over there. They're newer looking and they have a bunch of flowers on it. But you can see poles through here. There's 2 more over this way. One of them has a sign on it. And then there's a stop sign over there. I didn't really want to drive out here because it's too hard to tell where the roads were and if there are graves out there. So anyways, pretty interesting to see that. This is a kind of a brick entrance into the cemetery, and it looked like it had a gate on there at one time. And who knows, it could have had an archway up over the top of it, but it says Kanawha Memorial Cemetery. But like I said, it's almost like it's 3 cemeteries in one. I spent a lot more time in these cemeteries than what I thought I would, but after Katherine Cross's headstone was missing, I took a look around and saw so many others toppled over and missing and cracked. And then when I saw the veterans' graves, I decided to spend some time in here and just uncover them, bring them out into the open, and let them be honored once again. So many of them seem to be covered, and maybe I made a small dent in here.